Salvete omnes. This is Abbey Latin Liber Primus, Chapter 7. This is a lesson on syntax, interrogatives, as well as the ablative of means, also called instrumentality, and the ablative of manner. Let us start, as we usually do, with English syntax concerning interrogatives. So interrogatives, hopefully you can see the rogat there, which ultimately comes from the Latin rogo, rogare, rogavi, rogatus, which means to ask. So interrogatives, roget, are questions. We're asking things. Interrogatives are questions. We're asking questions, as opposed to a declarative. A declarative sentence is just something that you declare. Statement. The girl looks at the farmer. In interrogative, we are asking a question. We're asking about a scenario. In a declarative sentence, we're just declaring what that scenario is, that the girl looks at the farmer. But in an interrogative, we're asking, does the girl look at the farmer? Is the girl looking at the farmer? The girl looks at the farmer? So notice we have the declarative sentence, the girl, the subject, verb, direct object. The girl looks at the farmer. In an interrogative, if you don't have a helping verb in the declarative, English will add one in the interrogative and put the helping verb first. So English will add a helping verb. It goes first. The subject then goes. So we've inverted the normal word order. Subject and helping verb. It now becomes helping verb, subject, then the main part of the verb, and then the direct object. So the girl looks at the farmer because does the girl, helping verb, subject, verb, look at the direct object farmer? Is the girl looking at the farmer? Now, you know tenses other than present tense, so let's plug and chug some imperfect and some future. So the imperfect has a helping verb that goes with it. It's was or were. Was the girl looking at the farmer? For plural, were the girls looking at the farmer? So the future, will the girl look at the farmer? Will the girls look at the farmer? Now this last one, the girl looks at the farmer, this one requires the punctuation, or for someone to say the sentence, because we typically in English, we change the inflection of our tone, of our voice. When we get to the girl looks at the farmer, we lift up the tone of our voice at the end when we're asking a question. The girl looks at the farmer? Now Latin, by comparison, if you change the word order in Latin, it doesn't really do much but change the emphasis. It doesn't change the meaning of the sentence. Whereas in English shows syntax by word order. If you change the word order, you change the meaning, you change the syntax. Latin, they go by word ending. What ending goes on the word, not necessarily the order. So such an inversion of the helping verb and the subject like English does, that would do nothing in Latin. Considering Latin also at this point doesn't have helping verbs. So also Latin, classical Latin at least, lacks punctuation. There's no question mark. So this exemplar would be a little bit tricky in classical Latin. Oh no, what do we do? Well, Latin has a fix. So the first word of a Latin direct interrogative, that is a direct question where the answer is either yes or no. So if we're asking a yes or no question, Latin will add an enclitic, which is a leaning on word. Klino in Greek means to lean, and then n is on, so it's a leaning on word. This is a word, it's a little particle that doesn't really exist on its own, but it has to rely on another word, so it leans on or attaches itself to another word. You already know an enclitic, and that's que. Que, when it means and it is attached to a word, that's an enclitic. Que by itself doesn't have really a meaning. You don't see it Q-U-E by itself. It has to, like a symbiote, attach itself to another word, a host, if you will, in order to have meaning. Ne works the same way. Ne. we attach the enclitic ne to the first word of a sentence to turn it in Latin from a declarative to an interrogative. Remember that we are only asking yes and no questions now. In class, we will also use question marks because we're used to them. So a declarative sentence, like puella agricolam spectat, so the girl looks at the farmer. We have the subject puella, agricolam, the direct object in the accusative case, and spectat, third person singular present of specto, spectare, spectave, spectatus, to look at. So the nominative subject does the verb to the accusative direct object. Easy. Interrogative. All right, how do we turn this declarative, the girl looks at the farmer, the girl does look at the farmer, the girl is looking at the farmer, to a question? Just add ne to the end of the first word. Automatically makes it a question. So, puella ne agricolam spectat? Does the girl look at the farmer? Is the girl looking at the farmer? Now remember, because Latin also shows emphasis via word order, even though it's always the first word that gets the enclitic ne, typically the most emphatic word. When we ask questions, we often put stress on the emphatic or operative words. So, is the girl looking at the farmer? So I'm putting emphasis on girl. Like, is that girl really the one that's looking at the farmer? And that would be fine for puella ne agricolam spectat, where the emphasis is on the girl. Is the girl looking at the farmer? But if we wanted to say, is the girl looking at the farmer? Where the emphasis is on the farmer, the stress is laid on the farmer, the agricolam, put the agricolam first, and then add the ne, the enclitic, to that. So this gives us something like, is it the farmer the girl is looking at? Does the girl look at the farmer? Agricolam ne puella spectat? And then your typical kind of no emphasis, easy thing to do with interrogatives, I like to do this one just off the bat, is put the verb first. Put the verb first, and then add the ne to that. It's actually pretty closest to English. Is the girl looking at the farmer? So invert the subject and the verb. Spectat ne puella agricolam? Is the girl looking at the farmer? Usually the emphatic word goes first, but always in a Latin interrogative asking yes or no, a direct interrogative, the first word gets the ne. Whatever that first word is, it gets the ne. All right, let us talk about a couple more interrogative particles, because it's no fun just the ne. What about non ne? If the asker, if the person who is interrogating you, asking an interrogative, asking a question, if that person expects a yes answer, they want you to say yes, they want to sort of influence you, like, you did do your homework, right? Parents do this one all the time. You did clean your room, right? You took out the trash, yes? Surely you cut the grass. Don't call me Shirley. So the particle nonne, it's just known, and ne is typically the first word in a sentence if someone is expecting a yes answer. Now, you don't have to say yes. Do you always say yes when your parents say, you did your homework, right? I mean, if you do always say yes, good for you if you're telling the truth. So when one expects a no answer, they want you to say no, the particle num is typically the first word in the sentence. And here are some examples. So, asking a question expecting a yes answer. First word is nonne. Nonne poeta est bonus. So, here's how to think of this. I think of this, some kids think of this as nonne as kind of its own word. I see it as non and ne, pretty much what it is. Is not the poet good? Isn't the poet good? Because remember, is not can contract to isn't. Is not the poet good? Isn't the poet good? The poet is good, isn't he? If this confuses you, translate it as a declarative first. So, poeta est bonus, the poet is good. Now ask that declarative as if it were an interrogative and you want a yes answer. The poet's good, right? The poet's good, isn't he? Is not the poet good? Isn't the poet good? Non ne poeta est bonus? Now, if you expect a no answer, if you want to influence the person to give you a no answer, num goes first. Num poeta est bonus. So once again, if this confuses you, start with the declarative, take out the interrogative, make it poeta est bonus with a period. The poet is good. Now ask that as if it were a question, an interrogative, and you want the answer to be no. The poet isn't good, is he? Oh, no, of course not. Scoff. Of course. Clearly, surely, of course he's not good. The poet's not good, right? Yeah, no, clearly he's not. So we have nonne for yes, num for no. Notice that we have the poet isn't good, is he? We have an is not here. The poet is not good, is he? We have a not, but there is no known in our interrogative. There is no known up here. The known, the not, in the English is contained inside the num. So keep that in mind. Students often add a superfluous num up here, or superfluous known up here, like num poeta non est bonus. No need for that. The known is already contained in the num. Now, not all questions are direct interrogatives. Not all questions are direct questions where we're asking either yes or no. We can also ask, who is that? How are you? What is that thing? Things that cannot be answered by yes or no, despite the fact that lots of my students try and answer questions like that with a yes or no. Questions may be introduced by an interrogative pronoun, an interrogative adjective, or an interrogative adverb. So for example, if an interrogative pronoun, guess what? It's a pronoun, which means it takes the place of a noun, but it's asking a question. So who is that? Who is taking the place of a noun? Who is that? It's working by itself. What is that? Who for a living animate sexed thing, and what for a neuter inanimate unsexed thing. Interrogative adjective, guess what? It's an adjective asking a question. Unlike the interrogative pronoun, where the who or the what is working by itself, an interrogative adjective must have a noun that it modifies because it's an adjective. Which boy is that? Otherwise, we'd just say, who is that? This is a pronoun, who, working by itself, takes the place of a noun. An adjective agrees or modifies a noun. The noun is boy. Which boy? Which is modifying boy. It's an adjective. Which boy is that? What thing is that? Which thing is that? What boy is that? Which girl is that? And then finally, an interrogative adverb. Where is that? How are you? And this links back to the morphology lesson on adverbs. Remember that interrogative adverbs are when, where, why, and how. And those questions are answered by adverbs. When, then, sometime, now, always, yesterday, tomorrow, today. Those are adverbs. Where, there, somewhere, nowhere, anywhere. Adverbs. Why? Answered by an adverbial clause, so that something may happen. And then how, meaning in what way? How did this happen? Carefully, calamitously, disastrously, beautifully. Let's move on to talking about the ablative. Ablative of means. So the ablative is obviously your favorite case because it can do the most things. It has the most jobs, it has the most functions. We've talked about the ablative where it means location with prepositions like in and sub and pro, meaning in front of. We've talked about the ablative of separation with prepositions like ab, de, ex, meaning away from, down from, out of, moving away from something. And then we've also had the ablative of accompaniment, where the ablative with the preposition cum, meaning with or alongside with or in the company of, shows us with whom an action happens, alongside whom. So I am walking with my friends. I complete the action of walking alongside my friends. So those are the reasons of the ablative that we've learned thus far. Let's add 2 new ones. And yes, there are even more. The ablative of means. This is an extremely popular and ubiquitous use of the ablative. Means is all over the place. It's also called the ablative of instrumentality. And within that, you can see the word instrument. An instrument, it's an object. It's a thing. It's a thing you can pick up, you can touch. So English shows the object or the instrument, which one uses to do an action, by using a prepositional phrase like with, or by means of, or by. Like, I wrote my essay with a pen. I wrote my essay by pen. I wrote my essay by means of a pen. Meaning I did the action, I wrote. Well, how did you write? I used the object pen, the instrument pen, to complete the action of writing my essay. Brutus stabbed Caesar with a sword. It's technically a knife. But Brutus stabbed Caesar with a sword. Brutus stabbed Caesar by means of a sword. Brutus used a sword to stab Caesar. That was the object, the means by which he was able to do the stabbing. So objects like pens, swords, these are instruments, objects, by which we use to do the action. By means of these objects, we do the action of the verb. Latin does the same thing. Latin just puts the noun, like pen or sword, in the ablative with no preposition. There's no preposition. The ablative of means does not use a preposition. I can't emphasize that enough. The ablative of means or instrumentality does not use a preposition in Latin. You just put the noun in the ablative. That's it. And it's a thing. It's a thing that you can touch. It's not an abstract concept. It's usually an instrument. So ablative of means indicates the means or the instrument, the noun, the object, with or by which the action is performed. So Brutus Caesarem gladio traieciebat. Brutus was stabbing Caesar with a sword, by means of a sword. Notice it's not cum gladio. He was stabbing Caesar in the company of a sword. Come on, sword, let's go. Alongside a sword. I'm so glad you're here, sword, with me, fighting by my side. No, gladio, ablative of means. There's no preposition. There's no cum. Just gladio, just the bare noun in the ablative, shows the instrument, the object, by means of this thing, gladio. He traieciebat, was stabbing Caesar. Kind of related to this, but also quite different, is the ablative of manner. So instead of using an adverb, English can show how, remember how is an adverb, the action of the verb is done by using a prepositional phrase with and an abstract noun. And we saw this in the earlier lesson on morphology. How did she do the action? How did she work? She worked carefully. She works with great care. We could turn that adverb carefully into with great care. So I wrote my essay with care, which somewhat equals the adverb carefully. Brutus stabbed Caesar with great anger. He didn't use the great anger to stab Caesar. He used a knife. Caesar was not really hurt by the anger. He was more hurt by the physical object, the knife. I wrote my essay with care. I didn't actually use the instrument care to write my essay. This was just how, with what abstract concept, carefully. So you can usually turn these prepositional English phrases with these abstract nouns. You can sort of find the adverb here, as opposed to the ablative of means. What's the adverb form of pen? Penly, in a pen manner, in the manner of a pen. It's very odd. It's very strange. Don't do that. Swordly. Brutus stabbed Caesar swordly. No, with the object sword. So you can't turn an ablative of means into an adverb. It's tricky, it's weird, don't do it. It often has bad results. Penly? Swordly? Stop, don't do that. But with these prepositional phrases and these abstract nouns, these ablative of manners, I wrote my essay with care. This is not such a big, crazy jump to carefully. Brutus stabbed Caesar with great anger. Not that big of a jump to quite angrily, or very angrily. So the ablative of manner kind of stands in as another way to show an adverb. We have a prepositional phrase with, and then an abstract noun. Care, anger. You can't touch care or anger. These aren't instruments or objects. They're abstract nouns. So classical Latin does the same thing with the ablative of manner, indicating how the action is performed, usually using abstract nouns. The preposition cum is used with just the bare noun. So cum diligentia laborabam, I was working with care. I was working carefully. Cum diligentia, with care, laborabam. So if we just have the noun, like diligentia, must have the preposition cum. But if that noun, diligentia, is modified by an adjective, like magnosa and we have something like magna diligentia laborabam, the cum, the preposition, may be omitted entirely. You don't need it anymore. Magna diligentia laborabam. But if you feel like it, you can put the cum in there. You can use the preposition. But the word order must be adjective, cum, noun. Magna cum diligentia laborabam. So I was working with great care, and equivalent translation with the cum. I was working with great care. These are the same, only one has the cum, one does not. If you use the cum, it must go adjective, cum, noun. Think of diplomas. We use ablatives of manners with diplomas. So you graduate cum laude, with praise, with honor. Magna cum laude, summa cum laude. So magna, we have cum laude, magna cum laude, and summa cum laude. So diplomas favor using the preposition, but they even keep the proper word order. Adjective, cum, noun. Optime. You are now ready to move on to the English exercise of Chapter 7. Volete omnes.